Harvey Milk's name returned to the headlines this past summer after Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth ordered the name of the slain gay rights advocate who served in the U.S. Navy removed from a naval ship. But Milk's legacy lives on in other ways, including an opera about his life that carries a powerful story of its own. Senior arts correspondent Jeffrey Brown reports from San Francisco for our ongoing coverage of the intersection of health and arts, part of our Canvas series.
Remember this moment, this one night in June.
It's the story of gay rights activist and politician Harvey Milk, his sexual and political awakening, his impactful life as the first openly gay man to be elected to public office in California in 1977, serving on San Francisco's Board of Supervisors, and his violent death along with Mayor George Moscone, assassinated by former Supervisor Dan White. The opera Harvey Milk was first performed in 1995. Many years later, composer Stuart Wallace took it on again.
I rewrote the whole thing from the first page, from the blank page. So while it is the same opera in a way, there's nothing the same.
I am one.
Harvey Milk Reimagined, also with the libretto by Michael Khoury, was presented earlier this summer by the San Francisco group Opera Parallel. In the new version of the opera, the story and number of characters are slimmed down, the pacing faster, changes Wallace says he'd long wanted to make.
We all look for that in our lives, to get a chance to redo things. And you know, when we premiered Harvey Milk, I was 34 years old. I'll be 65 this year, so hopefully I've learned a few things in the interim. But
He also experienced something in the interim that makes this an unusual kind of redo. In 2010, Wallace was in a bicycle accident that led to a traumatic brain injury, or TBI. It left his life in shambles and took away his ability to write music. So this led to years and years of what? I mean, of
struggle, depression,
Yeah.
Lack of ability to really do much of anything. I mean, there was a period where I was practically comatose and just kind of staring off into space, unable to do anything. So it was pretty shocking.
the loss of your ability to write music was
Catastrophic. And to have that sort of stripped away in a way that I couldn't really even understand was devastating, really.
also devastating, a sense that his doctors had nothing to offer.
The experts failed me. And so
Is that how it felt?
Oh, sure,
Yeah.
sure. And I come from a medical family and in which medicine was revered. And so it was a great disappointment, I have to say. But I think this is true. Brain science is in its infancy, and people just don't know.
That's a totally common sounding story.
As it turns out, even a leading neurosurgeon, Dr. Jeffrey Manley of the University of California, San Francisco, shares that view.
It's completely understandable. And you know, I feel embarrassed and ashamed as part of the medical community that we really haven't done a better job here. But I think if you go to any large metropolitan area and you say, where's the cancer clinic? They'll say, oh, it's over there. Or where's the heart clinic? They'll say it's over there. And you say, well, where's the TBI clinic? And everybody's like, I don't know, because it doesn't yet exist.
Dr. Manley didn't treat Stuart Wallace, but his experience, he says, rings true. 5 million Americans live with some kind of long-term disability from a head injury, but distinguishing and diagnosing different kinds of injuries and applying treatments for them remains little understood. Too often, Manley says, a traumatic brain injury is seen as a one-off event rather than a process requiring care over time, even years.
If you think about a concussion in a sporting event, it was like, oh, well, the person got their bell rung. And it was like, oh, well, that just happened, right? And I think we didn't stop to think about, well, so what did the person look like on day 2 or day 5 or a week later? It was just an event. This wasn't something that led to a process which for some results in disability.
Now, Manley and nearly 100 experts the world over have proposed a classification system to evaluate specific head injuries, and they hope develop targeted treatments.
So better diagnosis, better prognosis, better treatment, and ultimately better outcome.
Stuart Wallace's comeback took years. He credits acupuncture for a first boost, and later he says microdosing psilocybin also helped. But he readily admits he doesn't know exactly how those affected him. What he is sure of, the act of writing music again, in fact rewriting this piece from his past, made an enormous difference to his recovery.
I was just then taking baby steps back to working, to really making music. And I thought, well, if I can't, nothing lost. But I did it because I felt music holds memory. And maybe, really maybe, it was a kind of experiment on myself. Maybe I could find my way back by diving back into Harvey Milk and finding those memories that would propel me back to my work. And I have to say, it worked like an explosion.
I asked Dr. Manley what he takes from this part of Wallace's story, finding his way back through music and memory.
I think this is a phenomenal story because it shows you the ability of the brain to recover from more significant brain injuries. I think that those of us who are in the field are quite open to look at any means possible to restore function and to allow somebody to be able to return to what they did before, because that's what makes life meaningful.
I am Harvey Milk.
And so Harvey Milk Reimagined, a deeply personal saga for its composer, but also again part of a national conversation involving its subject. The very week it was performed in San Francisco, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth ordered the Navy to rename a ship that bore the name of Harvey Milk, himself a Navy veteran.
A young man died here.
Baritone Michael Kelly, who played Milk and as a gay man sees him as a hero, says the administration's moves show how relevant Milk and his legacy remain.
It feels like a message that they are they're foreshadowing what they intend to do, which is to continue to suppress our voices and to erase our existence.
And the opera in that context does what?
It revives the voice of Harvey Milk and his efforts to ensure that all people, no matter what their sexual orientation or position in society is, that the Constitution works for all of us.
For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Jeffrey Brown in San Francisco.